Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here as we talk about the Whistleblower Act, and I would like to call this meeting of the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship to order and welcome everyone in attendance both here and online. My name is Nolan Dick, MLA for Grand Prairie and chair of this committee. I'd ask let those the members and those joining the committee at the table introduce themselves for the record, and then afterwards we will go to online afterwards too as well. So we'll begin to my right.
MLA Garth Roswell for Vermilion Lloydminster Wainwright.
Kevin Brzezinski, Public Interest Commissioner.
Ioana Roshu, Legal Counsel for the Public Interest Commissioner.
Good morning, Heather Sweet, MLA for Edmonton Manning.
Nathan Ip, MLA for Edmonton Southwest.
Good morning, Abdulaziz Perigri, Research Officer.
Good morning, Bonnie Govindarajan, Parliamentary Counsel.
Good morning, Nancy Robert, Clerk of Journals and Committees.
Good morning, Warren Huffman, Committee Clerk.
Excellent. We're going to be going online now. I'm going to just say your name all at once, and then if we can introduce in that order for the record, that'd be great. So on screen, first we'll start off with Member Yao, and then Member Al-Janid, and then Member Petrovic, Member Sawyer, Member Armstrong-Hominick, and then Member Sear, and then we will go to Ms. Hillier, and then Awanik, and then Member Chris Awanik after that. So please, Member Yao, start us off.
Cheney Yao, Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo.
Najwan Al-Junaid, the MLA for Calgary Glenmore.
Petrovic, you're up.
Hi, Chelsea Petrovic, MLA for Livingston McLeod.
Tara Sawyer, MLA for Old Didsbury Three Hills.
Jackie Armstrong-Hominick, MLA Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville.
Scott Sear, MLA Bonnyville Cold Lake St. Paul.
Kelly Hoyer, I'm the Legal Counsel for Alberta Justice.
Chris Awanik, Manager of Investigations for the Office of the Public Interest Commissioner.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. And then for the record, I will note the following substitutions that Member Sawyer will be substituting for Member Yao. Now, we do have a couple housekeeping items here too. Please note that the Microsofts are operated by Hansard staff for those in the room. For those online, please unmute at when that is your time to speak. Committee proceedings are live streamed on the internet and broadcast on Alberta Assembly TV. The audio and live stream and transcripts of meetings can be accessed via the Legislative Assembly website. Those participating by video conference are encouraged to please turn on your camera while speaking and mute your microphone when not speaking. Members participating virtually who wish to be placed on a speakers list are asked to email or message the committee clerk, and members in the room are asked to please signal to the chair. Please set your cell phones and other devices to silent for the duration of the meeting. Okay. And that's housekeeping. Can we please have Member Callahan Stonehouse introduce herself here for the record?
Good morning, MLA for Edmonton Rutherford, Jody Callahan Stonehouse.
Excellent. Thank you so very much for joining us here this morning. We're going to move on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the draft agenda? Excellent. If not, would someone like to move that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship approve the proposed agenda as distributed for its February 17th, 2026 meeting? Excellent. I see Member Roswell. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the approved agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. That is, sorry? Sorry, anybody online can I just do opposed? No? Okay. Everybody online for all in favor, please say aye.
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 Excellent. Any opposed to the agenda? Excellent. That is carried. Next, we will do approval of minutes. We have the draft minutes of our January 19th, 2026 meeting. Are there any errors or admissions to note? If not, would a member like to move that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship approve the minutes as distributed of its meeting held on January 19th, 2026. Okay, we have Member Sweet willing to move that. Any comments? Perfect, and yeah. All right, and then for today, while we're here, we're just going to do everybody in the room and online when we say favor or opposed. So everybody, if you would all in favor, we're going to try this on this one. For everyone in favor of the approval of the minutes, both in the room and online, please say aye.
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 Man, we're rocking it today. Okay, any opposed? Perfect. Well, that is carried. All right. Well, as everyone knows, here we are reviewing the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act, and the committee requested an issues and proposals summary to be prepared for our consideration of the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act. And this document compiles and summarizes the input received by the committee during its review process. The document itself does not make any recommendations, nor is it intended to limit the scope of our deliberations. However, it is a convenient reference tool often used by committees to organize their deliberations. Before I open the floor to questions, I will ask Mr. Burgry to provide us with a brief overview of the document. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm happy to provide an overview of the issues and proposal document. This document was posted on the committee's internal website on 5th February 2026. Just something that I'd like to clarify at the start is that I'm not going to be talking a lot about the content of the document itself, but I will talk about what this document is, what its purpose is, and how did we at Research Services decided to organize it. This document itself is a summary of the issues and proposals that were brought to the committee's attention in written submissions as well as oral submissions. The document itself is not an exhaustive summary of all the comments and opinions that were made. However, our intent was to extract the main proposals out of those opinions and put them in this document for the committee's deliberation process. In terms of the purpose of the document, like I said, the purpose is to assist the committee in its deliberation process. However, it is entirely the committee's prerogative to decide in which order they'd like to consider these recommendations, whether the committee would like to consider other issues that are related to the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act that were maybe not in this document or what were brought forward by stakeholders or members of the public. That is the committee's prerogative. Now, coming on to the organization of the document itself, the document is organized into 6 sections. Section 1 is the introduction. Section 2 explains how to use this document. Section 3 it has the executive summary. So the executive summary is all the main proposals that were sort of made. And then Section 4 is the real core of this document. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it because it's a little bit different than a usual document. The issues and proposal document is in a table format. And so if you look at sort of Section 4 on page number 4, you'd see that the document itself, or Section 4 itself, has a really big table. There are 4 main rows, and I'm going to briefly talk about each row to explain what its purpose is, as well as how the table itself is organized. So the table itself has 4 sort of main columns. The first column is talking about the scope of the act. The second column is strengthening protections for whistleblowers and witnesses. The third one is about improving the functionality of the act, and the fourth one is other issues and proposals that were made. In terms of the rows, there are also 4 rows. The first row on page 4 is issues. That explains the main issue, so it will very briefly explain what the main issue is. Then the second sort of row talks in a little bit more detail as to what the proposal is. In this, we have quoted wherever relevant. If the submitter has made an extensive recommendation, then we have quoted that recommendation in that. The third row is the relevant sections row. In this row, you will find that if there's a relevant section that was brought forward or that's connected to the proposal, we have tried highlighting and identifying that. The fourth row is the notes row. In this, we have expanded on the rationale of the submitters where relevant. And in cases where the either the stakeholders or members of the public who made the recommendation have not expanded on the rationale, we've still tried to provide as much contextual information as we can. Yeah, so for any recommendation that's in the second row, the second row, the fourth row is always a good row to sort of look at to see the further explanations or rationale. After that, it's within the document itself, then there's the fifth and the sixth section. The fifth section is the list of written submissions, and the sixth section is the list of oral presentations. I do believe that is it for my part, but if there are any questions about the document itself, I'm more than happy to answer. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so very much for that overview. Greatly appreciate it. Is there any, any questions on the document? Member Rosewall.
Okay, great. Just on the, where was I going here now? The, regarding proposals to extend reprisal protection to non-employees or suspected whistleblowers, did your research identify documented instances where individuals were unable to seek protection under the current framework?
Through the chair, thank you, member, for that question. I do not believe that we came through that in a research. I think our research was mainly sort of focused on cross-jurisdiction, which the committee had requested. So within that, I do not believe that we came across an instance. But I do think that if my memory serves me correct, I think the commissioner maybe brought it up in his submission, but I do not believe that in a research or through a research we came across any such cases.
All right, it looks like that is it for questions. So thank you so very much just for your overview there, Mr. Burgery. Greatly appreciate the time and effort that went into that. So this is going to take us into our deliberations and recommendations section here now, which I anticipate will take us up the rest of the majority of this committee. And this does take us into the final stages of our review of the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act as well. And I will remind committee members that we began our review on June 27th, 2025, and we were given 12 months to complete our review of the Act and report back to the Assembly. We have a full day meeting scheduled today for our deliberations. We will break for lunch around noon. And there were a number of motions put on notice for potential consideration today. I will now open the floor for considerations, or for discussion, sorry. Yes, Member Rosewall, you're up first.
I'd like to make a motion.
Excellent, go ahead.
Are we going to display these? Or?
Yeah, which one?
Motion 18. Okay, I'd like to move that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to explicitly require all persons to keep confidential the identity of whistleblowers, witnesses, and persons subject to investigation, and B, make it an offense except in prescribed circumstances to disclose information that could reasonably reveal those identities. So make the...
Excellent. I will open that up for discussion. Yes, Member Sweet.
Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify, I'm happy to discuss the motion, but I'm wondering if I'm allowed to ask for clarifying questions in relation to the motion?
To the Commissioner?
To the Commissioner.
Yeah, give me 1 sec.
Yeah, I'm not asking opinion on the motion, I'm just asking for clarity.
As long as it's technical, he is absolutely free to answer any questions here today.
Okay, thank you.
You go ahead, ask your question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So because we're speaking specifically to the confidentiality components of this motion, I have a few questions just around how our legislation currently works. So for alignment on best practices, can we confirm whether other Canadian jurisdictions include explicit offenses for breaching whistleblower confidentiality, and how our framework compares to other jurisdictions?
I know that Chris Iwanek, has done the jurisdictional scan, so I'm going to refer to Chris to answer that question.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Feel free to go ahead.
So there are some jurisdictions internationally that do set out more strict provisions for protecting the confidentiality of whistleblowers and witnesses. As it relates to offenses, off the top of my head, I can't recall the specific jurisdictions, but that's certainly something we can bring back to the committee.
Under the Australia Act, they do have an offense provision.
There is an offense. Do we know what the offense provision is?
Go ahead, Ioana.
Yeah, certainly. So the Act makes it an offense to reveal the identity or identifying information of a person who made a disclosure of wrongdoing, unless it is for the purposes of the Act. The disclosure is required by law. The disclosure consents to the use of the information, or the information was previously lawfully published.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions, I guess I will call the question on this. All those in favor of this motion, in the room and online. So we're going to try this one once again. We're going to get good at this by the end of the day. Both in the room and online, if you are in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Perfect. This motion is approved. On to our next motion. Okay, perfect. Member Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we could please pull up motion 3. There's my motion 3. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the motion reads that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended by expanding the wrongdoings to which the Act applies to include unethical behavior. So if I can just explain a little bit. Absolutely. Thank you. So the inclusion of this type of disclosure is important because unethical behavior is usually what leads to and results in a disclosure being made. Constricting the scope of disclosure to exclude this can result in many disclosures that could arguably be beneficial from being made, I guess would be the way to say it. I don't know if I'd say it like that. But so I think we're just looking at ensuring that it's explicit within the Act around the definition.
Okay, any others? Okay, Member Rosewell.
Yeah, I think we need a little more definition, some clear, comprehensive descriptions of those things, and of unethical behavior and other things. So I think there's another motion that might expand on it and be more inclusive coming forward.
Member Ip, and then.
If I may ask a clarifying question to the commissioner and his staff, just on the scope and clarity of the term unethical behavior. Can officials clarify how unethical behavior is currently treated under the Act and whether it is captured indirectly through existing categories of wrongdoing?
Thanks. Yes, it is considered. So, for example, if we have an allegation or a disclosure regarding the gross mismanagement of employees, we would certainly look at a number of different things. How far the person or the leader of the organization deviated from their policies and procedures, whether the person acted unethically in decision-making, the form of bullying and harassment in terms of the gross mismanagement of employees and the extent of it, and how that may impact the culture of the organization. So all that is taken into consideration. When we're looking at wrongdoing, keeping it broad allows us to look at different aspects of like unethical behavior.
Just a follow-up question, if I may. Has the Public Interest Commissioner identified cases or know of cases where unethical conduct was reported but could not be acted upon because it did not meet the statutory definition of wrongdoing?
So I may just defer to Chris, but I can speak generally. When we do get disclosures, if there's not specific information to meet the definition of wrongdoing, then potentially there are those circumstances where if it's simply just unethical behavior, that it wouldn't rise to the level of misconduct. Chris, do you have anything further on that?
Yeah, I agree. And another thing to consider is unethical behavior is a very subjective term. What one individual might view as unethical might not rise to the level of wrongdoing. And that unethical behavior is defined in that organization's policy may differ from organization to organization as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Member, for those questions. Member Petrovic and then Member Stonehouse-Callahoo.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say I agree with my colleague, MLA Rosewell as well, and I believe that Mr. Uwanek, I really apologize for the pronunciation of your last name if it was wrong. I was going to state further that unethical is a subjective term, and when we're looking at issues like this, we should be very objective. So at this time, I am opposed to the motion that is currently on the floor, mostly because of I think we do need more precise language in this. And that's it, Chair. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Member Stonehouse.
Thank you, Chair. I just, in support of the motion, unethical behavior is often the precursor to more serious wrongdoing. And if we want a system that catches the problems earlier, the Act must allow people to report concerns before they actually escalate. And so strengthening our accountability culture, the modern public sector accountability framework recognizes that ethical lapses, while not always illegal, can still undermine the public trust, including unethical behavior, which strengthens, of course, the culture of accountability. We want to encourage responsible reporting in governance. Employees are more likely to come forward when they see behavior that feels wrong. It may not fit the definition of legally wrong, but it feels wrong. And so broadening this definition empowers our staff, empowers citizens to report responsibly and safely. So reducing the ambiguity right now, individuals may hesitate to report because they're unsure of whether or not their witness qualified as wrongdoing, therefore they stay silent. Adding unethical behavior provides clarity and it reduces the hesitation. So I think it's really important that we're supporting good governance, and ethical conduct, of course, is the foundational principle of public administration. So recognizing ethical behavior is a reportable concern that totally aligns with the Act of widely accepted governance and integrity standards. So that's all I have to put forward in support of my colleague's motion. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this motion? Excellent. Well, if not, I will call the vote. Once again, in the room and online, For those that are in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye. Nope, sorry. Nay.
All right, and those opposed to this motion, please vote nay. Say nay.
Opposed.
Nay.
Opposed.
No.
All right, I'm gonna call this defeated. And only because we didn't have everybody vote online, I think. I don't know if I can say that, but didn't see some. Okay, if somebody wants a recorded vote, we can do so. Okay, perfect. Excellent. Member Rosewall, you're next on my list.
Motion 12. Oh, okay, fair enough.
That might speed things up a little
Okay.
bit.
I'd like to move that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Act be amended to clarify and expand the scope of the definitions of key terms, including disclosure, wrongdoing, and reprisal. In respect of the definition of wrongdoing includes systematic misconduct and institutional integrity failures that pose a substantial risk to the public interest. So it's kind of clear and comprehensive definitions are essential to the interpretation of the act, and so we need very explicit and expanded words that were as opposed to what we just went through, but that's what I think we should look at.
Excellent. Okay, Member Petrovic, you have some comments?
Thank you, Chair. And I spoke to it earlier just in regards to pretty precise language, and I was hoping I could put an amendment on the floor in regards to this motion.
Absolutely. What's your amendment?
My amendment is that the motion be amended in clause A by striking out wrongdoing and reprisal and substituting wrongdoing, unethical behavior, and reprisal, and B in clause B by striking out systemic misconduct and substituting unethical behavior, systemic misconduct.
Excellent. Is there any comments on this? Yeah. Member Sweet.
I know we're all shocked by that. So it's interesting that I see this now come up that actually has all the language that my motion just had a few minutes ago around unethical behavior. And so at some point, the government agreed that those words were appropriate. I find it interesting now that the government has changed their mind and has decided to amend their own motion that literally just was motion 3. So I'm curious to know from the government side why it is that it worked and it seemed to work and we were all in agreement on language to deciding now that the language that we all agreed on that made sense no longer makes sense. So I'm just curious if someone on the government side can explain why it worked a couple days ago and it doesn't work now.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not sure about the couple days ago. That's, anyway, I think this just expands on what you proposed. And, and I think it just, makes a broader, wording and defining more, words within it. So I think it's just a more complete one. It's what you had plus is kind of the logic behind it.
Sure, Member Sweet, and then Member Petrovic had her hand up, but she took it down, so we'll find out if she wants on the list.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I think all I'll say is that I was fine with the initial amendment by the government side for motion 12 with the language that as it was written. I'm not okay with the amendment because it removes the intent of 12. And so I would be encouraging all members to vote this down. I think that the original motion as it stood was fine, but I can't understand, basically the amendment just removes all of the language and makes the motion pretty much void. So, and I'm actually curious if it doesn't even change intent, but I would be fine to be corrected on that.
Thank you, Member Sweet. Member Petrovic.
Thanks, Chair. Sorry, there's so many buttons to click online when, but just in regards to this amendment, I think it just really brings the balance and the focus and focused expansion by protecting individuals that are actively engaged in the workplace, but while also narrowing the scope to exclude some of the job applicants. So overall, I think the amendment promotes fairness, consistency, accountability within publicly funded environments, while still maintaining a clear and workable legislative boundary, which is something that we need in keeping the objectiveness of the language. It's pretty much all we're doing. It doesn't remove anything. It's just adding unethical behavior, which what your motion was, but just adding the objective boundaries to within it. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Petrovic. Excellent. Okay. Is there anybody else that wants to speak to this motion? If not, we will call the question.
This is on the amendment.
Sorry, on the amendment. This is just on the amendment, and then we will have to go back to the motion. So on the amendment, excuse me, all those in favor, both in the room and online, please say aye.
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 And any opposed, both in the room and online, please say nay. Nay. All right. That amendment motion passes, and now we're back on to the main motion with that amendment, sub-amendment as part of the amendment, part of the motion. The motion is amended. Thank you. Perfect. We're gonna get this. So sorry, back to this motion. Is there any further discussion on this motion? I'm not seeing any in the room, so I will call the question. Any of those in favor of this motion, both in the room and online, please say aye.
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 Okay, and though any opposed, both in the room and online, please say nay. That motion is carried as amended. Perfect. Member Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we could just go to motion 1, please. You can read into the record while we're finding it. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So motion 1 reads that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to A, require all persons to keep confidential the identity of a person who makes a disclosure of wrongdoing unless otherwise required by law or necessity to carry out the purpose of the act, and make it an offense to disclose the identity of a person who makes a disclosure of wrongdoing except in the circumstance referred to in Clause A.
Got it coming on the screen, but all right, a little technicalities here. So thank you, Member Sweet, for your patience. Because main motion 18 was just passed, and this has significant similarities. Can you explain and we can't pass two motions that are the same. Can you explain to the committee how this might be different than motion 18?
Yeah, and I think this is where we're gonna start seeing I will say, I just want to start with, I feel like the government and our side on motions were quite similar in a variety of them. And so I feel like as we move through the day, we're probably going to see some that may overlap significantly or whatever. So I'm okay with discussing with council when we start getting into, have we already addressed this issue? Because maybe we have, just based on how they're written. What I would say, though, is that I do feel that when we heard from stakeholders when they presented to the committee, that confidentiality was the number one issue that repeatedly came up. That the culture around workplace and people feeling confident enough to be able to come forward and be able to disclose that, the more confident we can be within the legislation that we are protecting frontline workers and being able to do that, I think the better we can. I feel like this motion helps strengthen that because I do want to ensure that the safeguards for people when they come forward, they don't feel fearful. They don't feel that their name will be disclosed. We did see in a cross-jurisdictional analysis that was presented day 1 or day 2 of a case that happened that ended up having a worker's name disclosed to the courts. And so I guess my intent behind this motion is to ensure that the act is as strong as it possibly can be. And I think that this does that. If there's concern that maybe the past motion already deals with this issue, I'm open to that discussion, but I feel like this makes this very clear to the government that it is a number one priority for this committee.
Excellent. Well, I saw Member Petrovic's hand up here, so we'll go to Member Petrovic.
Thank you, Chair. I understand the intent of this motion, and in principle, I agree, but I think it is also, it does not ensure that confidentiality is applied equally to all parties involved in the investigation. And also considering that we've passed motion 18, I do believe that this motion is redundant, and I'm just, I'm not seeing it there. So if you don't rule this out of order, I'm hoping I can convince others to vote no to this because it is redundant, and I believe it's missing a key component to it as well.
All right. So vote, or we... So this is a tricky one because they do have significant they have significant similarities, and they from recommendations from our clerks, there's a they cannot both motion 18 and this motion cannot live together at the same time. So based around that, I will just make the call just to say that this motion itself is in conflict of the one that's already passed, and we will just carry on. We'll just call this one out of order because of the similarities and because they can't live together. So we will carry on. Thank you, Member Sweet, for bringing this forward. You want to do another one? Look, sure. You know what? I'll do this for you this one time. Member Sweet, you're up.
Well, let's just go to number 2. And I feel like the government's going to be okay with number 2. May have an amendment, maybe not, but I think it's okay. So main motion 2, the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure of the Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to include contractors, temporary staff, interns, volunteers, and job applicants in the definition of an employee.
Excellent. And, okay, so I see, member Aljanid's hand up first, and then I see member Rosewell, right after her.
Yeah, I had a question more on the evidential burden to the whistleblowers, and that's the question is for the Public Interest Commissioner here. If you can clarify what evidential burden currently rests on an employee alleging a reprisal, and whether the burden is consistent with best practices, again, in the whistleblower protection.
Juana will answer this question.
Thank you. Currently, the complainant who brings a complaint of reprisal doesn't bear an evidentiary burden to prove a reprisal occurred. Because of the way our office conducts investigations, we collect evidence from both the complainant, so the employee, and the employer, and we use that to determine whether or not the employer has an alternate explanation other than reprisal for the job action that they took. So there's no current burden, legal burden, on the complainant, which would bring us in line with best practices in practice, even if that's not how the Act is currently written.
Just a quick follow-up here. Even like when the employer actually controls most of the relevant documentation and decision-making records?
That's correct, yes. Because we're requesting the evidence from both the complainant and the employer, we are able to collect all of the evidence the employer has as well. The complainant isn't required to bring that evidence to our attention.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Member Rosewell.
I'd like to suggest an amendment, or bring forward an amendment.
Excellent. Bring it forward, sir.
Okay, I'd like to, the motion be amended by striking out interns, volunteers, and job applicants, and substituting interns and volunteers. And I think it's important that the definition employee strengthens whistleblower protections for individuals who work within an organization or have worked there, but not necessarily anyone that was applying for the job. Like there's, I'd like to make it work for people that are actively engaged in the workplace to be able to do this. And a job applicant might just, I didn't get hired, therefore I'm going to complain about something. So, so I just like to take the job applicant out of the motion and keep the rest of it. The intent of the motion is great.
Excellent. Okay, Member Ip, you want to speak to this sub-amendment?
I just have some questions for the Commissioner. Does removing job applicants leave individuals vulnerable to retaliation or discrimination if they raise concerns about irregularities in hiring practices?
Yes, the potential is certainly there. As per our recommendation is to include everyone, so that they have the protections available to them, including students, for example, which is not included in the amendment.
And just in terms of consistency with other jurisdictions, my follow-up question is, do other provinces or federal legislation include job applicants in their whistleblower definitions, and what has been their experience?
I may ask Chris again for the cross-jurisdictional scan if you're aware.
Yeah, specifically the Nunavut Act, which is sort of where our recommendation fell in line, protects any person who makes a disclosure of wrongdoing or gives evidence to assist in an investigation. So that wouldn't include students, really anybody in that category.
Excellent, thank you. Any other comments on this? Okay, Member Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, I just want to reinforce that we did receive a recommendation that included this. And I think removing job applicants creates a gap in protection at a stage where individuals may be particularly vulnerable and have less ability to speak up. We know hiring processes are a critical point of public trust, and if applicants cannot report safely, we undermine the integrity of those processes, especially in the public sector. And of course, again, the purpose of the Act is to encourage reporting of wrongdoing whenever it occurs. So I believe that excluding job applicants narrows that purpose unnecessarily.
Excellent. Thank you, Member Sweet. Anyone else like to speak to the amendment? If not, we will try this once again. We will call the vote on the amendment of this. Once again, we will do in the room and online at the same time. All in favor, please say aye of adding this amendment.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
That amendment is approved and is carried. Now back on to the motion with an amendment. As amended, sorry. Any further discussion on this motion? If not, I will call, sorry, Member Ip, was that that hand up?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to actually make a few points supporting the main motion now amended. Specifically, I just wanted to highlight the fact that public sector workplaces increasingly rely on contractors, temporary staff, and interns, and that our legislation should reflect that reality to avoid leaving accountability gaps, and that people in non-permit roles especially often see operational issues first, and I think protecting them encourages early reporting and reduces the risk of problems escalating. It's also important to note that protection should not depend on whether someone is on payroll, on contract, or in a volunteer capacity. Wrongdoing, of course, is wrongdoing, and the Act should recognize that. So I will be supporting the main motion and encourage others to do the same.
Excellent. Any other comments on this motion? If not, I will call the question. Both in the room and online, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed, both in the room and online, please say nay. Excellent, that motion is carried. Excellent, Member Rosewell.
Motion 13. I guess I'll just go ahead. I'd like to move that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to expand the application of the Act to include the following service providers and any other prescribed service provider. A, continuing care home operators, B, supportive living accommodation operators, and C, organizations delivering publicly funded services under contract with the government. So the Alberta healthcare system operates through a combination of subsidiaries, corporations, and prescribed service providers that deliver publicly funded services. So expanding the Act's application ensures accountability mechanisms reflect the full scope of the modern health industry delivery, service delivery.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Member Rosewell. Okay, Member Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment to this one.
Feel free.
So the amendment reads that the motion be amended as the following: by A, by striking out the following service providers and any other prescribed service provider and substituting the following. B, by striking out clause C and substituting the following. C, all contracted service providers of a department, public entity, or office. And D, subsidiary health corporations within the meaning of the Provincial Health Agency Act. And the reason I'm doing this amendment, Mr. Chair, is that striking the phrase any other prescribed service provider removes ambiguity, I hate this word, ambiguity, thank you, and ensures the Act applies to clearly defined categories of service providers. I believe that it's replacing clause C with all contracted service providers of a department, public entity, or office, ensures that protections apply consistently across the public sector. Adding subsidiary health corporations ensures that whistleblower protection extends to all major components of Alberta Health Services delivery systems, not just those directly named. And although it does maintain the intent of the main motion, I do believe that it actually speaks to my private member's bill, which is expanding to ensure that any type of health agency that is either currently or soon to be developed by the current government, that all workers are protected no matter where they work.
Excellent. Thank you, Member Sweet. I'm going to go to Member Petrovic online here.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to do a sub amendment as well to this, if you're okay with that. So that I would like to include that the amendment be amended, by striking out clause D and substituting the following: subsidiary health corporations within the meaning of the Provincial Health Agencies Act, and E, any other prescribed service provider. So just like to add that last little bit onto there.
Excellent. Okay, any discussion on the sub-amendment of the amendment? No discussion, so I will call the question on this sub-amendment for the amendment, and then we'll go to the amendment. I think that's correct, is what's on the screen. Okay, so I will call the question on the sub-amendment. All in favor, both in the room and online, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say no or nay.
Nay.
Okay, that motion is carried. Sub-amendment is carried. Now we're on to the amendment to the motion. Any discussion on the amendment to the motion? I don't see any discussion on the amendment to the motion right now, so I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye, both in the room and online. Perfect.
Aye.
Any opposed to this, please say nay. Excellent. That amendment is carried. Now we're back onto the motion. We're as amended. We're gonna get there.
Mr. Chair, just because it was sub-amended and amended and then amended, is there a way for us to just get the current wording of what this motion says now, please?
Absolutely. We will get that up on the screen momentarily. Okay, this is the motion we are currently working on, with both the amendment and the sub-amendment included. I'll give you a moment to read it. Yes, Member Sweet.
Yeah, so I want to spend some time on this one as amended, and I'm just wondering if we can get some clarity on whether or not, because I believe your office just reviewed the impacts on Bill 11 and what this means for the whistleblower piece. And it looked like people were covered. I'm just wanting to get clarity if this will cover everybody working within currently service deliveries through Alberta Health Services and public delivery systems, and then those who may be receiving or providing healthcare services and other service deliveries. Are we missing anything?
The way that I read this, it's comprehensive of everyone. That's the way I read it, which is significant.
That's all I needed. Good.
Excellent. Any other comments? No? Okay, I will call the question on this motion. And all in favor, please say aye, both in the room and online.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, both online and in person? That motion is carried as amended. Thank you.
There's so many. Yeah, go ahead. Go for it, friend.
Member Ip, please go ahead.
I would like to put forward a motion, Mr. Chair, that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to establish a process for employees to obtain interim relief from reprisals while an investigation into a complaint of a reprisal is ongoing. This seems self-evident to me, but right now, the lack of interim relief allows the implicated officials to continue working and therefore commit reprisals while the whistleblower is waiting for the process to be completed. And the fact is that proper redress can take years to achieve, and the whistleblower, frankly, should not be left vulnerable within this timeline. And so this motion will address that.
Excellent. Member Rosewell.
Yeah, I would agree, and it does take, sometimes it could take time, and reprisal means you've perceived that you've suffered some damage, so while that's trying to be figured out, you know, you may, it's good that you have an option or opportunity to get some relief, so I'd agree with this motion.
Excellent. I'm not seeing any other comments both in the room or online, so I will call the question. All in favor, both online and in the room, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, both online and in the room, please say nay.
No.
Excellent. That motion is carried. Excellent. Member Rosewell.
Motion number 14. I'd like to move that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Act be amended to expand the application of the Act to municipalities. Extending the Act to municipalities promotes consistency and fairness across the broader public sector by ensuring similar whistleblower protections apply to both the province and municipal levels. Municipal employees manage significant public funds and deliver essential services. They should have access to clear legislative protections when disclosing wrongdoing. Including municipalities strengthens accountability and transparency in local government and reinforces the public confidence. And aligning these two makes sure that there's not two different rules. Everyone, if they're all the same, then it helps out a lot for where public dollars are involved.
Excellent. Thank you, Member Rosewell. Member Calhoun Stonehouse, please.
Chair, you know, we're going to vote against this amendment essentially because municipalities have their own whistleblower bylaws. So as an extension of this act, it could be seen as government overreach. And those that do not have their own bylaws would likely benefit from the expansion of this act. And we consulted with municipalities and they believe it is their right to establish their own laws. And again, I want to reiterate, this is clearly government overreach. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Thank you, Member. Anyone else desire to speak to this motion? Oh, okay, excellent. Member Petrovic.
Hi, Chair. I just would like to say a lot of organizations that we're looking at also have their own policies in place in regards to this. And so according to them, I'm, you know, should we be looking at all of those other places that have this? Like I'm pretty sure many organizations that we're currently voting to protect have pathways forward for this. This is that extra pathway when things are not getting resolved. I'm going to be voting in yes of my colleague. I'm rather confused by the wanting of voting no in this. I'm considering, just considering this is the whole point, is to be able to protect those people who are bringing this forward. Reporting within an internal organization and not having any additional avenues after that. Anyways, I guess Chairwood, I'm just blown away by the voting of no with this one. So that's it.
Thank you, Member Petrovic. Anyone else wanting to speak to this motion? Excellent. Well, I will call the question then. For those both online and in the room, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed to this motion, both online and in the room, please say no or nay.
Nay.
All right. This motion is carried. On to the next motion. Do we have another?
Sorry. Number 5, please.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Protection Act be amended to require the department, public entity, office, or prescribed service provider alleged to have committed a reprisal against an employee to prove that it did not commit that reprisal if the employee establishes a prima facie case of reprisal. As it currently stands, oh, that's my argument. I'll just wait. I'm like raring to get this done.
We'll get it up here on the screen, and then we'll give you a moment just for your arguments here, Member Sweet. And then we'll open it to the floor after that. Excellent, Member Sweet. Just want to confirm that this is the motion I'll let you have. Perfect. I will open it up to the floor.
Can I argue my point now?
You can argue your point. Sorry, I apologize. Absolutely.
Thank you. So just real quick, as it currently stands, the Act requires the whistleblower to prove that any adverse actions were solely due to the individual's whistleblowing. This can be incredibly difficult to actually prove, as the actions may not always be overt, and departments can be creative about how these reprisals are committed.
Excellent. Thank you. Member Rosewell.
Yeah, this would significantly shift the burden of proof onto the employer, potentially creating procedural imbalance in the investigation process. Reversing the burden may increase the risk of speculative or weak claims proceeding further than warranted, placing considerable legal and administrative strain on public entities. So it's important that we protect, whistleblowers are protected, but changes to evidentiary standards should be carefully balanced to preserve fairness, proportionality, and due process. So it's, it's pretty standard that innocent until proven guilty. So I think this would be changing that basic standard.
Excellent. Thank you, Member. Anyone else want to speak to this motion? Does Najwan, sorry, I missed. If you would like to speak to it, feel free. Sorry, Member Al-Janid.
I did, yes. I thought I had my. Yeah, I mean, with shifting that burden of proof after a prima facie case here is established, like, would it create a more, a balanced or a fair process here, given the employer's greater access to information about employment decisions? That's a question to the officials in the room.
Yeah, and I think Ioana answered this question earlier in relation to the burden of proof, so I'll just turn it back over to Ioana.
Yeah, just to reiterate a little bit, we don't just request the complainant to provide evidence. We always ask the employer to provide evidence about any job action they took as well. So a reverse onus wouldn't change the way these investigations unfold in practice.
Say the last part again, sorry?
A reverse onus would not change how the investigations currently unfold in practice because we request that information from the employer.
Right, okay, thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else interested in speaking to this motion? I see nobody, so I will call the question. So all in favor of this motion, both in the room and online, please say aye.
Aye.
Now, all opposed, both in the room and online, please say nay.
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 Excellent. That motion is defeated. On to the next motion, Member Rosewell.
Motion number 16. I'd like to move the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to A, expand its application to include all private post-secondary institutions that receive public funding, and B, extend protection to students of post-secondary institutions to which the Act applies who disclose wrongdoing in academic, research, and practicum settings. And as the Commissioner suggested, the students, you mentioned students earlier, and this is one specifically to that. So, public funding carries public accountability. Even if a private post-secondary institution receives government funding, they should be open to this accountability. And of course, students are in even a more jeopardy situation relative to their studies, and the power imbalance is obvious. So I think this would help with that.
Excellent. Any other comments or yes, Member Aljanid.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because the motion adds private post-secondary institutions, yet it fails to add the private healthcare facilities. And, it's the same Bill 204 that requires this and recommends that to the to protect public interest. We have healthcare workers working in both facilities, the private and the public. So it's just surprising that this motion includes private post-secondary institutions, yet fails to include the private healthcare facilities. So yeah, it's important to allow, for sure, students in post-secondary institutions to, raise the alarm and whistleblow. And equally, it is important to do the same in healthcare facilities. So it's a hard one here. I find it interesting to see it not including the private healthcare facilities.
Excellent. Thank you, Member. Is there anyone else interested in speaking to this motion? Excellent. Excellent. Okay, sorry, I will go to the vote now. All those in, sorry, Member Aljanid, is that a prior hand or is this a new hand up? I apologize. It's a prior hand? Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we will go to the vote then on this one. All those in favor, both in the room and online, please say aye.
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 Excellent. Any opposed, both in the room and online, please say nay. Excellent. That motion is carried. On to our next motion. Member Sweet.
Number 6, please. And I'll read it into the record while we're waiting for number 6. That the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to expand the Act's application to include all contracted service providers of a department, public entity, or office.
Member Rosewell.
Make an amendment or suggest an amendment.
Excellent. Go ahead.
And, it's great, other than motion amended by striking out office and substitute office as defined in the Act.
Thank you. We are just double checking to make sure we haven't passed any other prior motions that might conflict with this one. Just give us a moment here. All right, once again, I'm gonna make a call. So Member Sweet, thanks so very much for bringing this motion forward. With our prior past motion, 13, the wording is exactly the same in one of the, it's already in there. And so, we will, as once again, we can't have two motions in contradiction, so we will, I'll make a call, but you have a comment quickly on this?
Just wondering if I could get the will of the committee to maybe take a 10-minute break and go through my motions with council to find out if any more of them are too similar to be, and then we can just get through the ones that make sense. Well, people don't have to wait. They can go get.
I'm okay. So yes, I'm very willing for that. But before that, let's just deal with this motion on the floor,
yeah, for sure.
and then let's get the will of the committee right afterwards. Okay. So just as we were just on this motion, motion 6, because we can't have two conflicting motions, both approved by the committee. Motion 13 was already motion 13 was already approved. This makes this one. And already has this wording in it, so that makes this motion redundant. So we will, at the call of the chair, we will just say this one is in conflict. So thank you for bringing this forward, member. Okay. There was a request for a 10-minute break for member just to go through her motions with our council. I think that's good. Let's meet back here at 10:25. That's 12 minutes. I'll give you an extra 2 for a nice easy round number. But we will just sorry, do I have to is that at the call of the chair? Okay, perfect. Call of the chair. I have the authority. At 10:25, please be back here so we can get back at it. Well, on the risk of being too early, I will call this meeting back. I guess we weren't out, but back to order. We will turn it back over to Member Sweet. I believe she has another motion to put forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we'll move on to 9. This one we can do. It reads that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommends that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to require the Public Interest Commissioner to identify and collect additional data on the operation of the Act and prepare a report to be tabled in the Assembly prior to the review of the Act under Section 37.
Excellent, thank you. And Member Rosewall?
An amendment, and like the motion be amended by striking out prior to review of the act under section 37 and substituting annually. I just, if we can, I think it'd be good if we can just have a continuous data disclosure of what's happening. I think would be a good thing.
Great, okay. Any comments on the amendment to the main motion? Yes, Member Stone.
My question is around the timeline. How will it impact the workload for the Office of the Public Interest Commissioner? And following up that this change to the legislation will allow the committee to evaluate how effective the audits of this legislation have been and to determine how to improve the process if deemed necessary.
All right, well, Commissioner, feel free to go ahead.
Thanks for the question. And obviously, with all the amendments thus far, our jurisdiction has expanded exponentially. So the workload will be certainly an issue. With respect to this amendment, it's very similar to one of our recommendations that were made. I think getting data from all the different jurisdictional entities will give us a clear picture as to what's being done. It'll add a little more work, obviously, but I think it's valued.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Any other comments or questions by the committee? Excellent. Well, in that case, I will call the question on the amendment. All those in favor, both in the room and online, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, both online and in the room, please say nay. That amendment is carried. Now to the main motion as amended. So any comments from the committee on the motion as amended? No comments? All right, then I will call the question. All those in favor of this motion, please, both online and in the room, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Excellent. That motion is carried. Member Rosewell.
Motion 17. Move that the Standing Committee on Reserve Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to protect employees who make a disclosure from civil liability relating to that disclosure, except if the disclosure is made in bad faith. So it's a significant barrier if people are afraid that they might have a financial loss or get sued civilly to people even venturing down this path. So, but I think we do need the bad faith component in there and not extend that to people that have made false or malicious claims. So I think that's a balanced approach to this.
Excellent. Any comments or any questions from any other members of the committee? Member Ip.
We speak in favor of this motion and the general premise of the motion. I believe that it protects whistleblowers from unjustly being sued, and we support the increased protection for those whistleblowers from experiencing reprisals.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Any others wanting to speak to this motion? I see nobody else, then I will call the question. All those in favor, both online and in the room, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, both online and in the room, please say nay. All right, that motion is carried. On to our next motion of the day. Motion 10, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So motion 10 reads that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the amendments recommended by the committee come into force no later than 2 years from the date of this report. Rationale, obviously, for this, Mr. Chair, is that we have seen over the years that recommendations have been made, and those recommendations have not come into force. And we are actually reviewing some of the same recommendations that were made at the last committee review. So we would like stronger language to ensure that the government actually is able to bring into force the recommendations that this committee has made and the recommendations from the experts.
Excellent. And Member Rosewell.
Make an amendment that the motion be amended by striking out 2 years and substituting 3 years. So I agree the motivation behind this, how the last review, nothing happened. So we want to put some teeth behind looking after that. And but I think just the legislative schedule, I think 3 years would just give a little more time to do it properly and make sure it's well researched out. So I just want to extend it by 1 year.
Excellent. Member Stonehouse-Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're not going to support this amendment. We believe that 2 years is plenty of time to implement these recommendations, and we want to ensure that whistleblowers are protected within that 2 years and that this legislation is implemented.
Anyone else? And I apologize for messing up your last name there, Member Calhoun Stonehouse. Member Petrovic.
If I can, I would just like some clarification. I guess it's maybe not necessarily even on this moment or the motion at hand. But does this indicate a dictation to like when it states that the amendments recommended by the committee come into force? My understanding is that we are to provide recommendations. The language of this seems like we're dictating when this needs to be of the will of the legislature. Am I able to just get some clarifying wording behind this, perhaps from someone smarter than me that's in the room? Thank you.
It's just a recommendation.
Thank you so very much, Member Petrovic. This would be a recommendation to the government. No, it doesn't. It's not a requirement, but it is just a recommendation. So, if that's okay, Member Sweet.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I was just waiting to see if the member online had any more comments. So I appreciate, like, it is a recommendation, for sure. It is past practice where we're able to, at a committee level, encourage and recommend to the government that the legislation be drafted for review at the legislature. Obviously, it will always be a vote at the will of the membership, and so we can't determine an outcome of a vote. But giving a deadline of 2 years, I think when there is a will by the government to write legislation, it can be done. It can be done very quickly when it's needed to be done. And so, although I appreciate the government member trying to give the government a little bit more time, my concern is that when we start saying 3 years, then we're already entering into the report and like starting to review again for the 5-year sunset clause. And so I think 2 years is fair. 3 years also pushes us past the next election, and my fear is that if we go past the next election, then there is potential for a loss of data, politely, which may not have the legislation be amended. It may end up going somewhere else. So I would like to see it done within this legislative period prior to the next election.
Thank you for your comments, Member Sweet. Any other comments by any members of the committee? I see none, so we are on the amendment right now. So I will call the question on the amendment. All those in favor, both in the room and online, of the amendment, please say aye.
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 And any opposed, both in the room and online, please say nay.
Nay.
All right, I believe the amendment is carried. And that puts us back to the motion as amended. So if there's any comments or discussion by members of the committee, I'm not seeing any discussion on the motion as amended. So I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as amended, please, both online and in the room, please say aye.
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 And Mr. Yao, I need an audible. I saw your thumb, but I do need an audible from you.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now any of opposed, please say nay, both online and in the room. All right, that motion is carried as amended. Excellent, Member Rosewell.
Motion 19. Move that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to A, extend protections against reprisals to any person, including former employees and persons suspected of being whistleblowers or witnesses, and expand the definition of reprisal to include retaliatory actions that are not employment related. Sorry.
Excellent. We'll wait just to get it up on the screen. Coming momentarily. Excellent. Member Rosewell, that's what you read?
You bet.
Perfect. Any discussion on motion 19? Member Ip?
I speak in favor of this motion. It's important because reprisal can take form in various ways and can be difficult to prove, especially if it happens outside of the workplace. And I believe this specific motion will help protect those who are experiencing retaliatory action outside of the workplace. So I speak in favor.
Excellent. Any others want to speak to this motion? I see no hands, so I will call the question of the motion 19. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Excellent. All those opposed, both in the room and online, please say nay. Excellent. That motion is carried. On to our next motion. You don't have any more? Okay. Member Rosewell.
Motion number 20. That the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to replace the standard of good faith in respect of disclosures of wrongdoing and requests for advice with a standard of reasonable belief. So replacing good faith standard with reasonable belief standard provides greater clarity and objectivity in assessing disclosures. Reasonable belief tests focus on whether a person had the defensibility basis for raising a concern rather than attempting to determine their subjective intent or motivation. So good faith requirements may discourage disclosure by creating uncertainty about how intent will be interpreted, potentially. So it's just their best guess. And they're saying, I really reasonably believe this, and I think it's worthwhile bringing it forward. So I think it's important that we deal with that.
Excellent. Any members wanting to speak to this? Excellent. Oh, Member Aljanid, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, good faith is a lower standard to meet for disclosures. But, you know, it should be just accessible for everyone if someone wanna whistle blow if they feel they need to. So whistleblowing should just be accessible as opposed to adding another thing to it. So I'm contributing with this.
Excellent. Thank you, member. I'm not seeing anyone else wanting to speak to this. So I will call the question. All those in favor of this motion, please, both in the room and online, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay, both online and in the room.
No.
All right, well, that motion is carried. On to our next motion. Member Rosewell.
Motion number 21, that the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship recommend that the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act be amended to include provisions requiring education or training to be completed by designated officers and employees, including training on rights and reporting processes under the Act. So we talked about this before. It's, you know, and in some of the submissions, there was, you know, people don't know how to go about it or just what their rights might be. So I think it's important that we have some mandatory training for people to make sure that they know they can do this, and then what's the proper procedure on doing it. So I think educating everyone on the rights and how to do things is a good thing.
Thank you very much. Member Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we can, I think we all agree that this is very important. Again, I would just be curious as we continue to ask more, to do more. Would this be something that training or education would be within the purview that you would be able to currently be able to do, or would you need more resources to be able to do this work?
Thanks for the question. Yes, certainly with enhanced responsibilities comes additional resources. So certainly that would be something we would keep our eyes on. But with respect to training, so our office provides designated officer training yearly. It's online. We have a lot of resources online as well. But we certainly found significant gaps in awareness of our office when we did our public survey. So I think we would welcome ensuring that there is some sort of education for our designated officers and employees in addition to what we provide. But we would have to delegate that work back to the different jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Any other comments on this motion from the committee? Seeing none, I will call the question on motion 21. All those in favor, both online and in the room, please say aye.
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 Excellent. All those opposed or any opposed, both in the room and online, please say nay. Excellent. That motion is carried. Are there any other motions to put forward? Seeing none, that does take us into next steps, which is fantastic. Thank you all for everyone for your participation today. It has been we do have a little bit more, but thank you for your participation. In order to complete consideration of the Act, we will need to report to the Assembly. And this is not the committee, as this is not the committee's first review for many members. So members may be familiar with this reporting process. But just so that we're all on the same page, I'd like to ask Ms. Robert to provide us with a quick overview of what is included in committee reports and what is required should any committee member wish to submit a minority report. Ms. Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, yes, I think all of you have been through this before, so you're going to be quite familiar with what committee reports typically look like. the committee typically will direct the Legislative Assembly Office to draft a draft report. The draft report, the primary function of the draft report is to convey the recommendations that the committee has agreed to today. And what the research officers will typically do is include any contextual information that supports the recommendation that the committee agreed to, just to sort of add that context to the report. The report also includes the committee's activities, when it met, who it met with. It lists the written submissions that the committee received, the oral presentations that are received, that all of that sort of information. And the draft report is then shared with the committee for the committee's review, and then the committee decides if it approves the report or wants it changed. With respect to minority reports are permitted in Alberta, and any member of the committee can submit a minority report. It does not require the approval of the committee. It is just simply appended to the end of the committee's report, and the committee would set the deadline for when it would need to receive a report like that. And the committee, I think, has until this summer to report. Is that right? So we have plenty of time. And so once the report is approved, then you as chair would present it in the assembly in the daily routine. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Excellent. Any questions? I see no questions, so I do just thank you, Ms. Rivera, for that explanation. Couple notes here, just moving on. I would note that the potential wording of a pair of standard motions was provided along with the motions put on notice by committee members. The first motion was to direct the Legislative Assembly Office to prepare a draft report of the committee's review. The second motion was for the chair to be able to approve the report on the committee's behalf after the committee members have had a chance to review. Is there a committee member prepared to move the following motion? Sure? We will wait for it to be up on the screen to see what the motion looks like.
Someone needs to read it in, though.
Someone needs to read this motion into the record. Member Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship direct the Legislative Assembly Office to prepare a draft final report on the committee's review of the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act and distribute it to the committee members for their review.
Excellent. Thank you for the motion, Member Sweet. Any discussion? All right. Both online and in the room, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, both online and in the room? Excellent. That motion is carried. We also have a standard motion for the chair to approve the report after members have viewed and revised. So I do need this. This will show up on the screen here. Oh, we're good to go? Okay, Member Rosewell, please go ahead.
The Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship authorize the chair to approve the draft final report on the committee's review of the Public Interest Disclosure Whistleblower Protection Act after committee members have had an opportunity to provide comments on the draft of that document.
Excellent. Any discussion by any members of the committee on this? Excellent. Well, I will call the question for both those online and in the room. Please, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Any opposed? Both in the room or online, please say nay. Excellent. That motion is carried. And I believe that brings us to other business. Is there any other items for discussion at today's meeting? Seeing none, we'll move on. The date of next meeting will be at the call of the chair. Quick comment for myself. Thank you everyone for the fantastic meeting and getting through this meeting. Very much appreciated to everyone, both here in person and online. It was a great meeting to chair. Now, finally, we do need to call for adjournment. I will now call for a motion of adjournment. Would a member like to move? Excellent. Member Rosewell, that this February 17th, 2026 meeting of the Standing Committee on Resource Stewardship be adjourned. Can I read that as a record? Okay, perfect. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, everyone. The meeting is adjourned.